going on since March, and today is our 18th. The LABC webinar series was created in response to no longer being able to convene in person, and our members really wanted a way to know how COVID-19 was impacting homelessness, housing, sustainability, and our economy. If you missed any of these webinars, feel free to go back to our website at labusinesscouncil.org or visit your YouTube page, and you can pick up any of the prior webinars. Today's conversation will be focused on expanding opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses. We are excited to be joined today by LA's business champions who are leading this effort. We are honored to have with us LA City Councilman Paul Curren, LA City Councilman Curren, LA Controller Ron Galprin, and Chief Procurement Officer Shannon Haas. This webinar is timely given the current pandemic-induced recession that is seriously impacting our small businesses and the important ongoing conversation about racial and social equity. It is important for us to have a conversation about how we can and will create a more resilient, equitable, and prosperous small business community. Our speakers today will discuss how the city and the region can take advantage of several major opportunities over the next decade to spur our local economic development, wealth creation for small and diverse businesses. By ensuring that billions of dollars in public infrastructure investment, as well as economic benefits from major sports, entertainment, and cultural events, when those occur again, are captured by local diverse businesses through this new program. Well over 2 years ago, when it was clear that we were going to win the 2028 Olympic Games, the LA Business Council and leaders in the business community, led by our research arm at the LABC Institute, created a new leadership council consisting of prime contractors, public sector partners, small business, and ethnic chambers. We did this to embark on a 2-year initiative dubbed Compete for LA. It replicates a two-pronged model that came out of the UK in 2012 when they did their Olympics. The UK program was created to encourage a regional clearinghouse of procurement that combined an aggressive outreach strategy and was able to successfully award over 14,000 contracts to small and medium businesses totaling over $2.5 billion for the 2012 Olympics. Thanks to a strong leadership at the LA City Councilman Paul Curren has successfully introduced, championed, and passed a motion to replicate this effort. Councilman Curren, whose knowledge of the '84 Olympics and expertise helped guide this process, and the Chief Procurement Officer, Shannon, who has dedicated her efforts to reform the city's procurement process now for many, many years. The city has formally adopted an exciting new transformational procurement system that will be a modern, regional, streamlined, and transparent clearinghouse when it is developed. We are excited to learn more about it today and how this program will be a regional driver of economic development and how it will benefit the small business community. We also will learn what policies can be put in place to strengthen and codify equity in the contracting process for small, local, and diverse businesses, and how we are preparing for the potential repeal of Prop 209 through the likely passage of Prop 16 on the November ballot, which the LABC is proud to be supporting. Thanks to a recently released report from LA Controller Ron Galprin, who has been a champion of transparency and equity throughout his tenure, and finally will receive an update on the city's immediate efforts to aid businesses during the ongoing pandemic. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to run over a few housekeeping items. At the end of the presentations, we will have time briefly for Q&A, and I would encourage participants to please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of their screen to submit their questions. After Q&A, Adam Lane, our VP of Programs, will give a brief update on LABC legislation. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Curren, not that he needs an introduction, who is the city's chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, in addition to the Ad Hoc Committee on Job Creation. Through his leadership on these committees, he has worked actively to support small business through development of a citywide economic development plan, the local small business preference program, providing a competitive advantage to LA County businesses, and most recently, the passage of LA Compete For, the city's ambitious overhaul of its procurement system. We cannot thank him enough for his efforts to champion small business development and resiliency. Because of his leadership, our city has and will be putting the tools in place for a speedy recovery. Councilman Curren has led us through the budget downfall and recovery following the 2008 crash, and there's no other person we'd rather have leading us out of this current crisis. Please welcome Paul Curren.
Thank you very much, Mary. That's an extremely kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be with you and LABC again. And let me start by just thanking you for giving us an opportunity to all come together and talk about our economic recovery during a time of extraordinary, unprecedented crisis and challenge. And it's good that we have this conversation, because I think that it's very easy during times of crisis like this for all of our society, for city employees, for the business community, for the residents of our city to begin to feel hopeless, to begin to feel as though this challenge is insurmountable. And when we have conversations like this, it helps us get past that. And I like to think, when we think of the Great Depression, when we think of the stock market crash of the 1980s, the Great Recession that began in 2008, and now our current situation, there's one thing that all of those crises had in common, and that is that they all ended. They were horrible and seemingly hopeless periods of time that ended, and they were followed by times of success again. And I believe this crisis will be that again. But of course, it's incumbent upon all of us in government to ensure that we do everything that we can to continue to provide businesses with the opportunity to succeed, so that jobs creation continues and economic vitality comes back to our region. And as you pointed out, one really terrific opportunity to do exactly that has been presented by the fact that we have so many important big events that will be coming to Los Angeles, and infrastructure investment that's already coming into Los Angeles. And when you look at the Olympics, when you look at Measure M and the transformation of our transportation system, when you look at the World Cup and so many other major events that are going to be coming to Los Angeles that involve infusion of a lot of contracts, a lot of economic activity, a lot of tourism, and so forth, many of these. This gives a great opportunity to spread that wealth widely among our business community, and therefore creating jobs throughout our city. But that takes effort. And that's why I'm so pleased that LABC worked so closely with my office and with the City Council to develop the Compete for LA program, because it was long overdue. Overhaul of our procurement process was long overdue, and this is a great shot in the arm to that effort. Everybody probably who's on this call is familiar with LA Babin, which is our procurement system that is now about 25 years old. And anybody who understands the way technology moves knows that 25-year-old software is not cutting it right now. So Shannon and her team and many others in the city at EWDD and so on have been working really hard to get Babin updated, replatformed, so that we have a system that works. And the Compete for LA overlay onto that will allow us to really make sure that the investments that are coming for the Olympics, the Super Bowl, the World Cup, all of the infrastructure investments will be accessible to the widest number of businesses, and particularly in our small local businesses, our minority and women-owned businesses that are too often, despite the efforts of prime contractors, too often left out of the equation. And when we go through government procurement now, the hundreds of millions of dollars that the city spends every single year, the city alone, we know that too often local businesses are left out, because when you're looking at lowest price bids, very often the lowest price is offered by businesses outside of the city of Los Angeles because of the cost of doing business here. So we've taken a number of steps, which I'll get to in a moment, to try to give local businesses preferences. But still, much of the challenge has been just not knowing about opportunities, not being able to make the connections between primes and potential subs to participate in these contracts. And Compete for LA is going to help us turn the corner on that. It's really going to give an opportunity to all businesses to participate in the opportunities that are presented right now. And I, for one, am tired of seeing procurement go out, see an RFP go out, see, especially at Metro, where I also serve on the board, and we have these very large contracts that are put out for RFP, and we get a minimal number of respondents to the RFP because the contracts are so large. And very often those contractors that we utilize indicate that they made a great effort to try to bring in local minority and women-owned businesses as subcontractors, and they just couldn't identify. I mean, we see it again and again throughout government. Compete for LA takes that excuse away, because it gives everybody an opportunity to be part of the same platform, excuse me, participating in this. It allows us to, marry the people who want to do this work with the prime contractors who want to find them. And it also allows us another opportunity to improve people's competitiveness. So when a small business comes into this platform and doesn't succeed, we can identify that. We can help lift up those potential contractors by giving them the support that they need, by giving them the technical assistance that they need to make more competitive bids in the future. So I'm really pleased with the opportunity that that Compete for LA is presenting for us to do that. But still, we need to do more to make our local companies more competitive. And if we can go to the second slide. Almost a decade ago, during the Villaraigosa administration, I introduced our local business preference ordinance, which passed and has been a great opportunity for small local businesses to have a preference in the bidding process. But it, frankly, and I know the controller will speak to this a little bit, it frankly has not succeeded in the way that we had hoped for a number of reasons. First of all, not enough businesses are aware of it. Second, the definitions that we have to use under our charter are not specific enough, don't allow us specific enough targeting to small and local businesses that we think of as actually being small and local businesses. So we have to continue to work on making additional changes. We're integrating together many of our business preference programs so that there's a more consolidated, comprehensive way to do outreach. And those will be improvements, I think, for our local preference. If we can talk now a bit about some of the, because time is short, the opportunity that is presented by this unique moment in history to revisit some of the things that have impeded businesses from succeeding and employees from succeeding in Los Angeles. You all know that we just went through a challenging budget process, certainly the most challenging one that I think I have faced in my 8 years as budget chair. And in doing that, we made it a point, and I want to give a special shout out to Councilmember Price, Vice Chair of the Budget Committee, who will be speaking in a moment. But we made a special effort to ensure that we set aside money in this budget, $150 million, that's intended to preserve services and to provide services to our communities of color and underserved communities to help to offset some of the deficits that they've experienced in so many ways. And much of that money, although it hasn't been appropriated yet, it can be used exactly for this sort of purpose, to invest in businesses, to encourage more procurement for those business communities in those neighborhoods, to be able to get people prepared for career advancement. There's so many things that we can do with that money in disadvantaged communities in this city that will pay sustainable dividends over the long term. And one of those programs is the city's targeted local hire program. And this is a program that the city developed with our partners in labor to provide a point of entry for our hardest to hire people in Los Angeles. People who have recently been released from prison, people who are homeless, people who have struggled with or come from neighborhoods that are particularly economically hard hit, and a number of other categories of people that have been hard to hire. And we've created this targeted local hire program, which gets them career ready and then gives them an entree into civil service for the city. It's been an extraordinarily successful program. It allows people who are sleeping on the sidewalk 1 month to very soon be repairing that sidewalk as a city employee with a great career opportunity. So we've provided funding to be able to continue that program going forward. We've also provided funding in the budget to support the JEDI zones, which many of your viewers already know about. The JEDI zones are the Jobs and Economic Development Incentive Zones, which were an outgrowth of the work of the Ad Hoc Jobs Committee that I chair, as well as the Economic Development Committee that Mr. Price chairs. And these are zones that are targeted on low-income, disadvantaged communities, specific geographies that the city can use to promote and expand business in those areas through a variety of incentives, case management, permit fee reductions, targeted business consulting in those areas, facade improvement investments, and many, many other targeted efforts within those zones. So there is funding that's going to allow us to get those programs off the ground, even in these difficult times. And it's important that we do so that those areas can be the impetus for our continuing success. In my district, I initiated a theater grant program for our arts community that's struggling so much, particularly in the NoHo Arts District. No interest loans that they can use to get by through this difficult time. The restaurant beverage program is another important step forward because anybody who's ever tried to open a restaurant and get through the permitting process, the CUP process and so on for alcohol sales in that restaurant knows how challenging that process can be and how much of a delay there can be, which of course costs tremendous amounts of money and causes many of our restaurant businesses not to be able to go forward. We've now initiated a restaurant beverage program, which takes the typical conditions that are utilized in most conditional use permits and gives a restaurant owner the opportunity to agree to those conditions in advance. And if they do, then we have an expedited process which will allow sit-down restaurants to get to the point of their alcohol licensing faster, as much as 10 months faster than the normal process, which saves a tremendous amount of money. We're focusing a lot right now on reinvesting in childcare facilities. We used to have 23 childcare facilities throughout recreation and park sites in the city. We now have 2. That is going to be a key element in getting folks back to work and getting businesses open again, because when parents don't have their children at school because of COVID-19, childcare is an absolute imperative thing that we need to get going in order to get people back to work. And then finally, I just want to give a shout out to the new Small Business Commission, which was created as a result of a motion I introduced a while back, because small businesses have lacked a voice in city government. Big businesses have a voice. They can hire lobbyists to come down and speak. Labor has a voice. Neighborhood groups have a voice because they're organized. But small businesses have largely been left out of the policymaking discussion in City Hall because they're working 10 and 12-hour days, and they don't have time to schlep down to City Hall to give public comment. They don't have time to go and meet with their council member to talk about how the things that we do are hurting their business or helping their business. And so the Small Business Commission was created with an intention to be that voice, to help to vet some of the things that we're doing legislatively from the eyes of small business people. And I think it's going to make a big difference in how we move forward with policy making that's going to continue to support making Los Angeles a more business-friendly city.
Thank you, Councilman. We really appreciate that overview, and that's a lot of really important programs. It's now my pleasure to introduce Councilman Curren Price. Councilman Price was born and raised in Los Angeles City, in his city council district, District 9, where he was elected in 2013 and overwhelmingly re-elected in 2017. The 9th district encompasses South LA and some of the city's most notable destinations, including the LA Convention Center, Staples Center, LA Live, Exhibition Park, the University of Southern California, and LA Trade Technical College. District 9 is ethnically diverse and multicultural, composed largely of working families, with Latino representing more than 80% of his constituencies, followed by African Americans. Since taking office, he has helped usher in over $4 billion in private investment with historic projects like the LA Football Club, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, and the renovation of the LA Memorial Coliseum. Councilman Price has insisted that all major projects have strong commitments to local hire. As chair of the Economic Development Committee, Councilman Price provides invaluable leadership overseeing the city's economic development plan. Please welcome our friend and small business champion, Councilman Price.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mary Leslie. Appreciate, as always, your efforts and that of your board and members of the LA Business Council. And it's really exciting that you have convened this meeting today at such a critical time in the history of our city and of our business community. As chair of the Economic Development Committee, vice chair of the Budget Committee with my colleague, Paul Curren, and I'm also a member of the ad hoc COVID-19 Recovery Committee. And as a small business owner, entrepreneur, I'm sensitive and committed to leveling the playing field and providing opportunities. And so I'm just excited to join this distinguished panel of economic inclusion advocates. And those of you that are on the call today, because you can make a difference. Councilman Curren certainly referenced our efforts in this past budget to make sure that there were some resources available to enhance not just Black and Brown communities, but especially Black and Brown communities. And so we have money in the budget for the targeted local hire program that he referenced. Again, an exciting effort to hire individuals who might normally would not be in the civil service chain, but providing opportunities, providing access in ways that we haven't before. Some $90 million are going to be available for a variety of programs that may be able to assist businesses, helping youth, et cetera. And again, as these funds are allocated, there's going to be an opportunity for the public to weigh in. And so I hope that you will continue to be actively involved and engaged, expressing your concerns, expressing your thoughts, expressing your ideas about how these dollars are going to be allocated. In addition to these efforts, and let me just again give a shout out to the Compete for LA efforts, because this is going to be an extraordinary, revolutionary change. Those of us that have been tracking economic development and procurement activities in our city have been distressed by the fact that the majority of our contracting dollars don't go to businesses in our community, and very few go to small women-owned and minority businesses. And so we're going to have a way of tracking that and being able to really monitor it in a way that we haven't before. And if Proposition 16 passes, and I believe it will, that's going to provide further access and resources to our business communities in ways that we haven't seen. So we're going to be working closely with you to make sure that occurs. In March, shortly after this pandemic revealed itself, Councilman Curren and I introduced a motion to establish the Small Business Emergency Micro Loan Program, initially funded at $11 million. The program provides loans between $5,000 to $20,000 with no interest for a term of up to 18 months. And I think the payments are deferred for up to 6 months. But again, this is designed to provide resources for those businesses that perhaps did not get the PPP funding or some of the other larger programs from the federal government, but who still need help. So we're sensitive to them, and we're encouraging folks to contact emergency loans at lacity.org or the lamayor.org/loan to find out more information about this Small Business Emergency Micro Loan Fund. Due to the overwhelming demand, we're currently looking to increasing this fund. In fact, I introduced a motion to utilize funds from the CARES Act to provide up to $30 million in additional revenues for small businesses. Now, again, this matter is pending before the ad hoc COVID recovery committee. We expect to take it up in August. And so again, I'm encouraging you to weigh in with your thoughts, your ideas about how these funds should be allocated, where they should be focused, and how we can make sure that they are providing the kind of relief that's so very, very important, complementing the efforts of our microloan programs. In addition, the city partnered with the county, other institutions, and philanthropic organizations to create a regional COVID fund, an emergency fund. And again, this is going to be multiple rounds of grants, ranging from $5,000 to $15,000 for small businesses and nonprofits operating in LA County. Again, recognizing that many of these businesses have not received access to some of the financial support that's coming down from the feds, we want to make sure that our local small businesses are in line to receive them. So the next application portal for grants is going to open on August the 3rd. It'll be open until August the 7th. And again, we're encouraging small businesses, nonprofits to apply for these grants that again are designed to assist these organizations move forward, especially during these times of difficulty with reduced receipts, with layoffs, with closures that have, again, negatively impacted our business community, especially our small business, minority business, women-owned business community. Second phase of this program is going to be a loan fund. So we have a grant fund on one, and then a loan fund up to $1 million. Now, all the details have not been made available on this program yet. It's going to be also administered by LISC. But we're hopeful that by mid-August, information will be available and we will be encouraging small businesses to take advantage. But to learn more about this fund, please visit lacovidfund.org as an opportunity to again, provide resources in ways that we have not done before. We know that during this time, there are challenges. There are real challenges. There are real issues that involve legal concerns that many small businesses are unable to navigate by themselves. And so we're encouraging landlords, tenants, and small businesses to seek out LA Represents. It's a legal assistance initiative staffed by pro bono attorneys who provide assistance to small businesses that don't have access to the kinds of legal services that they may need. Confronting new regulations, renegotiating contracts, leases, applying for programs, et cetera. Legal help is available. So again, we're just encouraging our small businesses to contact LA Represents. The site is up on the board, and it's an opportunity again to receive the kind of legal help that can be so very important. In CD9, it certainly has been a tough time for our small businesses, especially accessing SBA loans and other funds. And so we've partnered with the Change Reaction Organization and our Business Resource Center to provide a small business relief fund. This relief fund, again, is targeted to business operating in CD9. And it's an effort to work with small businesses, independent contractors, et cetera. These loans range from $3,000 to $25,000 per business, targeting businesses who are making under $1 million in revenue and have fewer than 15 employees. And it's been modeled after another successful program in the city. Turnaround on these loans is only a couple of days. And again, we're just encouraging folks to go to the link, find out what's available. That we know that targeting businesses in certain areas is certainly a strategic approach. CD9 is not the only area, of course, that needs a special attention, but we're very proud and pleased to offer this program to small businesses in CD9 who are able to take advantage of it. In addition, we are having some discussions with a number of legal organizations about providing small businesses citywide with a legal checkup opportunity. Again, we know legal issues are going to be important in terms of renegotiating, negotiating, establishing, understanding, carrying, following through with the rules and regs. And so we want to make sure, again, that our small businesses have access to the kind of legal assistance that will help them be successful and help them provide a roadmap for success in the future. CD9 certainly stands to gain a lot from the efforts of the Compete for LA program. We're excited, as I said, that especially as we look at the Olympics, a number of other marquee activities, when sports and entertainment comes back, we want to make sure that our small businesses are able to participate and take part. And so we know that this is just a start. We know that there are obstacles and opportunities in this pandemic that we face. But I know that working together, we'll make sure that the small, minority, and women-owned businesses can be successful and we'll get through on the other side. Again, providing jobs, providing access, providing resources that benefit not only the business, the individual business specifically, but the broader community in general. And so, again, I'm happy to join you today. I'm excited about engaging business owners and others on this topic, especially during this time. As has been pointed out before, this is a exciting, important period of time that we're in. A chance where we are reimagining not just government, but reimagining our accountability and equity. And so we are consistent, and we are very excited about the fact that small businesses have a role to play and can lead the way in ways that will benefit not just small businesses, but the community in whole. So again, thank you. Thanks for letting me join you today.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for everything you're doing for small business and for pointing out that they really are the backbone of our economy here in LA, and for being such a strong voice early on, Councilman Price. I think you and I and a couple others may have had the distinction during those negotiations during the Olympics. We might have been the only ones that kept bringing up small business, right? When we testify. But I think now I have the honor to introduce City Council, sorry, making you a Councilman Controller, City Controller Ron Galfrin. Elected in 2013 and again in 2017, he is the taxpayer's watchdog at City Hall, making sure public dollars are spent efficiently and effectively. He is our elected paymaster, auditor, and chief accounting officer for the city of LA. He oversees a team that conducts independent audits, manages city payroll and spending, prepares financial reports, pursues fraud and waste, and works to create more transparent and accountable city for everyone. And he has definitely done all those things. Today, the controller will be discussing his recently released report, Seizing the Opportunity to Advance City Contracting Equity, which makes recommendations on how the city can ensure more businesses will be owned by women, people of color, and others who can win public contracts. Now that the city has put in place tools to reach out and connect small business with contract opportunities, this can be a major opportunity to put in place policies that turn targets into codified action. So this is very well timed, and we thank him for being with us today. Please welcome City Controller Ron Galfrin.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. And thank you so much for the kind introduction, Mary, and for all of the leadership that you and everybody at LABC has been really at the forefront of in terms of trying to help the business community in Los Angeles, but particularly small businesses, women-owned businesses, businesses that are owned by those who are parts of communities of color, and really to improve the business climate in Los Angeles. Also great to be on this Zoom call with Council members Curren and Price, and thank you for the work that you're doing on this, especially during these times. And of course, these are challenging times, but also with challenge comes opportunity. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the recent audit that we completed in my office, looking at the business inclusion programs. But I want to first share a couple of different resources that we have available and kind of set the stage for what the situation is like economically in Los Angeles at this time. Among other things, my office does financial projections in advance of budget season. We've always been extremely accurate in those numbers, but that changed a lot in March when things radically were transformed. We've seen a 300% increase in unemployment in the Los Angeles area since February. And what I have online is an unemployment map actually looking at exactly what kind of job losses those are and where those jobs have been lost. You could actually explore neighborhood by neighborhood in Los Angeles, how many job losses there have been. And mind you, this is just the job losses. It doesn't even fully take into consideration the number of people who are underemployed and also the number of businesses that are just not generating much or any revenue at all. So it points to the tremendous need for us to help to keep the businesses that we have alive and to help rebuild businesses. And that's going to be quite a lengthy process. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's going to be vital that we really help our local businesses. What I've done in the controller's office, among other things, is to create a COVID-19 info hub. And among those features of that hub is you can click on any of these boxes. And for example, if you're a small business, if you're a freelancer and an artist, if you're a homeowner, a renter, employee or job seeker, you can click on any of these boxes and you will find a vast amount of resources that are available. Everything from details of the CARES Act, the LA Cares Corps, which is a partnership between the city and the county, information on the state's Small Business Finance Center, links also to the city's Business Resilience Toolkit, which was put together by the Economic and Workforce Development Department, and also information on EWDD's business resource centers, which include everything from one-on-one consulting to entrepreneurial training, business courses, workforce development, and all of this available in multiple languages. Also included is, I've done a microloan tracker. There was mention made by the council members of the microloan program that the city has been putting in place. To be frank, it's been a slow go. So far, the number of loans distributed is 227. These totaled nearly 3.5 million. What I did is map each and every single one of these loans, where they're located, who they went to, what the industry is, so that we can get a sense of the distribution and make sure that that these loans are really being spread around in the most equitable way possible for Los Angeles. The plan is essentially to provide a loan loss reserve with monies that would be raised in a variety of different ways, including from the city and from the county. That loan loss reserve would be used to make it more attractive for private lenders to kick money into a fund that will then be lent to these businesses. We know, unfortunately, these loans will have a higher than usual default rate, just given the circumstances that we are in right now. So the idea is to try and minimize the risk for some of the lenders so that more money will be available. Now, if you want to see how the city is currently spending its money in terms of contracting, we've got the virtual checkbook of the city. And every single expenditure over the course of the last 10 years is in there. You can search by word, you can search by company, you can put in the name of any company, see exactly what's been paid and what it was for. You can even type in any particular product and you will find out who we bought it from and what we paid for it, and many more details regarding that. And it's been a huge issue for me, having been a small business owner myself before coming into office, to really do a much better job in the city of really, as it were, spreading the love around when it comes to the way that we do contracting. And it should be noted, by the way, that the city pays sales tax for everything it buys, just like you and I do as individuals. Other states have exemptions for public entities, but we in the city pay it, as does, by the way, the county, as does LAUSD. And we are paying a great deal of that sales tax right now when we make purchases to jurisdictions outside of Los Angeles, which means that we're not only denying ourselves the opportunity for creating jobs locally, for building businesses locally, but we are also helping to pay sales tax to those other places so that they now have more money to repave streets, and which is very nice for them. But I'm very interested in making sure that we have more of those opportunities to do so locally. And so one of the things that most recently I put out was that report, which I'm going to share with you, looking at our business inclusion programming. And by the way, I refer these as not a preference program, not as a set aside, but really as basic inclusion and basic equity. And we also often talk about these as improving opportunities for minority contracting. But the reality is, in Los Angeles, we are a majority minority city. And so what this is about is basic inclusion, basic equity for everybody, and it's in everybody's best interest. Now, let's be frank. There's a lot of money to be made in contracting with the city or with any public entity, but it can be a pain in the you-know-what. We have a lot of requirements, many of which are for good reason, but the cumulative impact of so many of these requirements makes it such that, and Councilmember Curren mentioned this, that there are many bids that we put out, and there are very few responses, either because of the way that it was written in the first place as an RFP or as an RFQ, or because we haven't done enough outreach, or because there are just so many rules in place that make it difficult for a variety of different businesses to even consider making a bid with the city. It should also be noted that there are other ways the city can purchase beside its direct purchases, and that includes piggybacking on contracts that already exist for another entity, another governmental entity, or through purchasing cooperatives. And what my auditors have found, and this has consistently been happening in the last decade, quite frankly, is that we've made some of our own rules so complex that there is an incentive to buy off of a piggyback, or an incentive to contract through a purchasing cooperative. And then that in reality just reduces the likelihood that it's going to be a local business or a small business or a business owned by the kind of diversity that we have here in Los Angeles. So this report really kind of looked at how we can better seize those opportunities. And the link will be made available to you. But right now, there's 6,000 businesses that are certified to contract with the city. But really only a tiny fraction of those are small businesses and companies owned by women and people of color, LGBTQI+. And it's really not brain surgery when all is said and done about how we can do a much better job. We can do much more, and there are efforts being made along these lines, as was mentioned, more centralization in terms of how these opportunities are presented and how people can actually take advantage of these kind of opportunities. We can also, we mentioned establishing a pilot program for a variety of different ways to include small business participation. We did see, which is I think a good thing, the mayor's recent appointment of a chief equity officer in Brenda Shockley, and I'm very excited about that. We've also recommended ways to redesign the outreach process because while there may be restrictions in the law, and we'll see if that changes in the November election in terms of certain so-called preferences, there is nothing that prevents the city from doing a much better job of outreach. And I think also there's a great opportunity when you look at the cumulative buying power of the city, the county, Metro, LAUSD. If we also join forces, we can not only benefit our own entities, but we can do a lot to benefit local businesses. And we also need to standardize the data collection, as has been mentioned, and also a mentor protege program that we have recommended. Let me just conclude by saying that while these are difficult times, and while we have a huge amount of work to do in the area of really becoming inclusive and of creating a more equitable Los Angeles, with these challenges come opportunities. I'm seeing new kinds of businesses arise. I'm seeing a growth in telemedicine. I'm seeing many remote learning opportunities. I'm also seeing, hopefully, a more accessible Los Angeles city government. Imagine that you'd be able to attend a hearing without having to necessarily spend half a day to go to downtown Los Angeles and park and everything that goes with it. And you all coming together, and particularly the advocacy of LABC, I think is essential to helping realize those opportunities. So thanks so much for all that it is that you're doing, and to all the businesses that are online. Hang in there. This too shall pass. And out of this will come many great things, I do believe. But the sooner the better, as we all hope.
Thank you. Controller, and thank you for the well-timed report and for all the work you've done to make the city and your office more transparent. And you created a tremendous amount of accountability, and I think that's really led to some good public policy. So we thank you.
Thank you.
Now it is my honor to introduce Shannon Haas. She's the Chief Procurement Officer for the Office of Mayor Garcetti. She brings over 26 years of experience into her role as the first Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Los Angeles, which was created in September of 2019. She began her career with the Recreation and Parks Department and later worked at LA World Airports and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Shannon has served on the Operations Innovation Team, a collaboration between the Mayor's Office of Budget and Innovation and the LA Coalition for Economy and Jobs, looking to reform procurement and other critical business practices in the city. She has been a great partner in our work to create a new city initiative. She has encouraged and been willing to receive constant feedback from stakeholders on how the city can improve its procurement process. She leads a task force now of small businesses and prime contractors that are helping design the program. And she is ever evolving and a true believer and a passionately committed person to seeing through this project. So it is my pleasure to introduce Shannon, who I hope is still with us.
How about now? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate the invitation to join this panel and talk a little bit about what we're doing in the re-platforming of what you all know currently as the LA Babin. If you're doing business with the city, that is where you go to find all the solicitations that the city posts. And we are finally, after many years, 20 some years, actually relaunching it. And it's been with the collaborative efforts of all here on the call, including our departments from Board of Public Works and Economic, our EWDD department, the Mayor's Office, Council. It has been a labor of love and something that we have wanted to do for quite some time. And really the stars have aligned, and this is the perfect timing and really is going to be a critical component and foundation to our recovery for our city and our region. The goal of this platform is to not only aggregate or continue to aggregate the city's solicitations, but also the region for any and all of those that may want to participate on this platform. So the small businesses are going to have a place to see not only the city's opportunities, but really anyone else's that may be willing to participate in this space. We, as Mary mentioned, have a task force informing our development and direction of this platform. They're made up of large businesses, small businesses, our city departments, governmental agencies, really hoping to design this so it is user-friendly, so it is something easy to navigate, and on the city side, really going to start giving us the metrics and reporting capabilities and visibility into our processes that we really haven't had. We guess a lot of the times around why we don't get an interest in our opportunities, and we're forever trying to change some of our processes, but this is really the first time we're going to start gaining metrics from the very beginning of a solicitation. We're going to really understand where we lose potential contractors. I think it was mentioned in some of the comments that the RFP processes are arduous, and we understand that. So the goal of this platform is really to be built out so it's holistic, it's comprehensive, again, easy to access, with the idea of creating a vendor profile. So you can actually register once with all those forms, making those forms very automated, and you won't have to keep registering every time you attempt to do business with another city department. So we're really trying to bring all of that information together, understand from you all where the most difficulties are, We're trying to work with our departments. We are working with our departments and the ability to streamline some of our RFPs, making them more comprehensive, easy to understand. Is that me? No. So it's with the goal of again bringing all these opportunities so small businesses can compete and come to one place. We continue to do the certifications. We are looking at the best ways to share that information not only with our internal departments, because we have to share that information as well, and we don't always do that the best way, but also share the information with external agencies as well. We feel that that is really going to be at the crux of helping the small businesses, sharing our information that we each house, so you're not having to reapply or bring the same documents to multiple agencies. And we hope to be delivering this as soon as some of the first parts of the replatforming as soon as January. And it will continue to evolve. We are on a platform that is going to allow us to really pivot as we see the needs, instead of having to wait a long time to change directions. We're going to really be able to train our own programmers as to how to use this platform and make the changes as necessary. So when we get the feedback from the business community, we can actually make those changes on our end. I'm proud to be in this position. As mentioned, I'm a longtime civil servant who has seen procurement for my entire career, and not a whole lot has changed. I was proud to serve on the mayor's team to bring about the leadership in this space. And it's been so necessary because it hasn't been without a lot of great ideas from the staff, the city itself, the business community. It's really been about having that leadership in place that can take all of that information and start to do something with the reports that come from the controller's office, from the motions that come from the council offices, with the executive directives that come from the mayor's office, and from the input from the business community. So it's a great role. We're having a lot of fun in it because there's a lot of attention around how important it is going to be to our region and the recovery efforts ahead. So I will wrap it up and leave it to some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. No, and I really appreciate that you distinguish the timing, because a whole host of these questions we're seeing right now are the difference between some of these short-term solutions that Councilman Price and Curren have been saying, programs that have been created immediately to deal with the COVID-19, and the fact this is a process that you've engaged in over years that is now starting to roll out, and that you believe will begin in January. We'll start to see the beginnings of a more streamlined, simplified, and easier to access process by January. And you will have a new name by January. As much as I like the compete for you, I could just live with that for a while. But whatever you're going to rename it, that's what we'll start to see in January. And then the outreach, Councilman Price and Curren, once you build it, will they come? So what's your thoughts on that? How do we make sure, and also Controller Galpin, how do we make sure that the people who need to know about this program and all the programs you just mentioned actually find out? Now, today's webinar helps, but what else can we do, and what else is the city doing to market and outreach its best programs or its good ideas?
Well, I think one of the things we can do is have a program. Someone referenced earlier in the past, of course, we've had these not good faith efforts, but good fake efforts. And I think by the city stepping up, indicating that it takes this very seriously, that it's creating a mechanism for tracking and for monitoring procurement and opportunities. I think that's going to be an important measure for individuals, groups, and organizations. Say, hey, we need to be involved in this. We need to be a part of this. So it's almost, kitchen, what comes first, It is going to be a challenge, but I think we have to continuously talk about the importance and also make sure that our actions are meeting the needs. And so allocating funds in a way that shows that we're serious, making sure that our departments, our city government is accountable, not just the mayor, not just the council members, but the department heads are accountable and that there's an opportunity for some feedback that shows that we are serious.
Yeah, I would just add, if you look at Compete for LA as an example of the need for that outreach. First of all, there's a private sector component built into this so that it's not dependent just on city government to get the word out, because we don't do that as well as the private sector does, frankly. So having the private sector do that kind of outreach is critically important. Making sure that everyone understands that all city departments are in this to win it. It's all hands on deck. We're going to bring all departments into this system so that, sorry, am I breaking up on you? Looks like I'm breaking up on you. So I'll let Mr. Galperin go in.
I think there are a number of different ways that that we can approach this. I'll just share very briefly an experience I had last year. I was addressing a business group with this one particular business owner who sells his products to the city of Los Angeles, but sells it actually through a distributor. So I said, well, I had my iPad with me. I said, let's see exactly what we buy that you manufacture. And within literally seconds, we were able to see what he makes and how much the markup by his distributor is. And then I said, well, let's see what your competitor is selling to us. And we did that all within a minute. And it was really eye-opening for him to see just how much data there is out there that can actually help to create a strategy for a business to do more business with the city of LA. But look, I think that some of the best ways that we're going to get more bidders are to make it a much better experience so that people come back. Second of all, that really make prime contractors much more responsible to seriously reach out when it comes to picking their subs to those businesses that are small and local and owned by diverse ownership. I think it's time for us to really utilize social media. The days of everybody just coming to your website are over. You got to get out there and get to people in where they are, which is online. And lastly, to look at our own policies and how that has made local procurement difficult. When it's easier to buy off of a piggyback contract, which it is in many cases, than it is to do your own contracting, then you got to change your own contracting. Otherwise, you're denying your local businesses the opportunity that they should have.
Councilman, you were making a really great point about the prime contractors. This not being just for small businesses, but also an opportunity for sports, entertainment, culture, others to actually post contracts on this new system.
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of Compete for LA is that this is not just LA Bavin, renewed. This is an opportunity for many government agencies and private sector general contractors to come together in one place with a simplified process for participation, so that we have many more opportunities in a single stroke for businesses that wish to participate to connect with those general contractors, prime contractors, and many government entities that are in the procurement process. And hopefully, once this is fully up and running, we will have participation from others as well, LAUSD, LA Metro, and others who will want to participate as well, because the simplified process certainly helps businesses, but it also helps government entities in having more robust bidding, which creates more competition, which is good for the government entities and the taxpayers as well.
We hope to also streamline this certification process. Of course, you know, the Metro, LA Unified, the city, the school district, all have different certification programs. And so we're hopeful that we'll be able to unify that process as well to help facilitate procurement, but more importantly, to help facilitate more inclusion of businesses in the process.
And Shannon, I will give you the last word on the simplification of the process, because I have this very long question that you really don't want me to read because it involves a lot of numbers and a lot of pages of documents and a lot of unhappiness, okay, by some small business person who actually tried to use our system. So rather than going through all that, can you just say perhaps what the new system will look like into what the councilman just said about the streamlined certification and what Councilman Curren just said about the prime involvement?
Again, the goal of the technology side is to really make it so vendors can build out their profiles. Right now, vendors are having to repeatedly submit the same forms depending on how many times they contract with us. So that is a big thing, the digitization of the forms and the actual profile. So vendors are and contractors are given meaningful solicitations. Right now, we get a gamut. Some feel like they get too much in their inbox, some not enough. So we're really trying to look at the keyword search capability, really honing down the NAICS codes that vendors or contractors may apply for. And then on the RFP, again, it's really looking at what is most critical for the contractors and then standardizing that. That's why we have our 40 departments involved in this process, which is including the proprietaries, really trying to standardize that look and feel of information so it's a seamless process no matter who you're contracting with the city. So those are all the efforts. We are trying to automate whatever can, which we think will handle a lot of the frustration around the process. But it's really just rethinking how we do it all now. So really it's all on the table. We're really trying to understand where the processes sit. Is it in the charter? Is it a state level? Is it legislation? Is it our own perceptions, you know, because they become urban myths throughout the years. So we're really trying to delve into the policy, and that's really taking a lot from all of the departments, because we all come from our different areas of expertise and understanding where it is we can start to simplify all of this. We know it's frustrating, but the more we can, again, automate and take out the confusion, letting you know where you're at in the process. Did my application or did my response go through? Am I done with BIP? That comes up a lot. We're really looking at the business inclusion program, looking at how to make it more meaningful, reciprocal between the primes and the subcontractors, really breaking down our contracts as well. That is happening now particularly in our Board of Public Works, to break down those larger contracts. So subs can really compete as primes even now. And then how we expand that to a citywide possibility. So it's all on the table. We welcome the feedback. Please participate, send us emails, and we're happy to include whatever it is you have.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that, you know, as we've discussed, you'll know if it worked, that in 2021, if people turn around and say, hey, that wasn't so bad, you know, you just had a big win, okay? And I think this is the first of many conversations. For all of you that have been participating today, thank you for joining us. All the information you saw today will be posted. All the good slides and information that were provided is recorded. Feel free. I see there's 47 questions. Needless to say, we did not get to them all. We'll make sure that they're distributed to the council member and the controller and Shannon as appropriately asked. I'll make sure to give you all the troublesome ones, Shannon. And we thank you for this today. And we thank you for your leadership, and we thank you for the many, many years it's taken to get to this point. And we don't underestimate that we will need to continue to be diligent in our commitment to seeing this through and making sure that this program is done right, which I feel confident it will be, and that it gets out and is marketed to the right people, and that new people who have never been involved in any of this before will be encouraged to do so, because as Councilman Curren Price just pointed out, there are many successful small businesses who have no idea that these opportunities await them, that have historically proven themselves and are all over our city. And for the historic work you've done, Councilman Curren, emphasizing the small business and the local procurement. And it sounds like Controller Galperin would like that to be a new means test for living and working here in LA, and that we will all give a pledge soon to buy local. So with that, be safe, be well, and we look forward to talking about this again soon with you. And we thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.